Transportation Board 1104 filing with the board copy verification service leading with the joint. 1. Address late identification of electronic filing. Option 2. Document specification. 3. Copy of the 4. Attestation verification. 5. The affirmation delegation under the penalty perjury according to the Title 18 U.S. Standard Code 1620 lieu of the oath. 6. Timely file required. 7. The computation extension of the time. And 8. Objectional matter. 9. Reserved. 10. Rejecting the deficient document. 11. Amendments. 12. Over the pleading of the papers. 13. Reply with the motion. 14. Protective orders maintain the confidentiality. 15. Certification ability of the federal benefit of Title 29 U.S. Standard Code 862. 1104.1. Address identification electronic filing. Except for the provided 1115. 7. The pleading with will be addressed with the Chief Section of the Administrative Office to proceed with the Transportation Board to Washington, D.C. 204230001. Shall identify the document number, the title of the proceeding known. The address of the person found with the pleading with the should be included the first page of the pleading with all envelopes of the pleading should be marked with the lower left hand corner with the document number if known, not full of the title of the and not the full title of the pleading to pleading type of the multiple volume pleading of the subsequent number of the cover of each of the volume indicate the volume number of the pleading total the number of the volume filed the first volume of the 4 volume 7 should be labeled volume 1 of 4 second volume 2 volume 4 so for the person following the pleading with the document per board have the option of electronically e-filing with a certain type of the pleading with the document instead of the filing paper. Per copy of the detail of the regarding type of the plea with the document is eligible for e-filing with the proceed with the file with the other pertinent information available to the board website and transportationboard.gov. The daily filing option with the pleading document approved with the e-filing determine the reference and information with the board website of the applicable with the requirements of the specified of the website with the requirement of Title 49 CFR 1104 specifically applicable filing with the paper per copy with the now apply with the e-filing pleadings and the document. These requirements include the not limited number of the copies stapling with the binding of the specification submission for the compact if the floppy disk of the document of the 20 page or more signature of the ink of the person that required the e-file with the may continue to use the board process for the filing paper copies. Document specification. Document except for the electrical filing with the board must be on with the white paper now along with the 8.5 by 11 inches. Include the ink of the table to cover the other document made in the coup of the ink that must be dark enough to provide a substantial for the scan of the photograph of the reproductive test must be double spaced except for the footnote load over the long quotations which may be the single space with the use of the type of the number of the spoke the 12.5 and the handing of the paper with only one side of the paper the original documents but copy the filings may be printed on both sides of the paper in order to facilitate the automated processing of the document sheet feeder for the original document with 1 page for the man to be bound with a permanent form of the no metal plastic of the heath of the staple of the binder of the must be held together removable metal with clips similar retainers original document of the made include the divider tab of the copy of the worker paper the expert witness stamp submitted all page of the original document to each side of the paper, the print with the both side of the paginating with the continuing include with the cover level of the attachment with the result of the assembly of the process of the paginating within practical the documents may be numbered with the local sequence of the volumes of the section that make up the filing but it need not to be renumbered to maintain with a single number and sequence through the entire filing. Some of the filing portion filings in the form of the scanned paper specification set forth in paragraph A of the section may not be scannable. For example, the electronic spreadsheet are not susceptible to scanning oversized the documents and oversized map of the blueprints may or may not be scannable. Filings are not scannable with the reference online with the made available to the public of the board office of the parties the oversight of the paper document encourage the file of addition oversight of the document representation for the unfit on the scanned paper through the reduction side of the do not undermine the legibility of the through the division oversight whole with the multiple subsequent pages of the stand of the paper representation may identify the place immediately behind the oversight document represent. Color printing may not be used with the textual submission for the use of the color filing with limited with the image itself with the graph of the MP maps and photograph of the paper facilitate automated process of the color pages may not be inserted among the pages containing text the button may be filled with the pinks and attachments of the filing original any filing with the included color images must be bear above this notation on the cover sheet of the filing contains color. Alright, copies and executed original with for plus 10 copies of every paper pleading with the document paper permitted with the required of the filing under subject to include the corresponding with the must be French view of the board unless otherwise specifically directed with another board with the regulation note for the individual perceiving the copies may reproduce the duplicated product provide all copies clear and legible with the appropriate with the note with the indication of the use of the matters of the show and the color of the original, but in black and white with the copies accurately identify all of the copies of the composition of the documents filled with the eradicated version of the must be filed with the electronic submission accompanying the paper file with the may be furnished filed with the textual submission with 20 more pages with the must be accompanied with the 3 electronic copies of the summary of the copy of the 3.5 IBM compatible floppy disk. The set evidence of the work paper, specifically the mathematical computation, must be submitted the functional electronic spreadsheet with the load is on the 123 release 9 Microsoft Excel 97 with the compatible version of the compatible disk 3.5 the IBM compatible formatted floppy disk, and in order to fully evaluate the evidence of the spreadsheet must fully accessible to manipulable with the electronic database. The evidence offered to support with the spreadsheet with calculation must be capable with the Microsoft own open database connectivity with the standard open database connectivity window technology allow the database software package to import the database created with the different software packages currently the Microsoft Access 97 the database is made of should be even format and other open database connectivity compatible to format. All databases supported with adequate documentation of data incorporates self-query language, require queries, program reports, and so forth. With the one copy of each of the disk of the compact submitted with the board, but it shall be possible to provide with any of the party requesting a copy. He just said diskette copy with compact diff of the must clearly able to document the number of the proceeding, which of the file, with the name of the party, on behalf of the filing is made with the confidential eradicated with the appropriate to more than one disk of the or disk submitted with one file of the link each for the substantial the number of the indicated disk. The disk number, total number of the diskettes, and disk file. Attached and verification signature of the attorney of the practitioner of the party with the representative of the practitioner or an attorney of the original of each of the paper file with the sign of the practitioner of the attorney draft of the baby stay with the by signature practitioner of the attorney counsel with the certification of the representative of the he read with the letting of the document of the paper the authorized to file. To believe that there's good ground for the document they have the not interpose with the document the leading of the document paper with the sign with the not need to be verified accompanied with the affidavit and left the required anywhere else the signature only by one not authorized representative before the board with the original each of the document non-signed with the practitioner of the attorney must be signed and inked with the company with the signature of the signature of signers that draft the verified with the contain the allegation of the owner of the name of the person on behalf of the file of the unduly authorized officer of the corporation who behalf of the file if the leading complaint at least with the complaint must sign with the verifying the plea. 1104 5 affirmation declaration perjury according with the Title 18 U.S. Code 1621 in lieu of the oath. The affirmation for the except in lieu of the oath whenever the rule of the board with the requirement of the permits of the media for the supported evidence established provided with a sworn declaration, verification, certification, statement, oath of the affidavit written with the person making the same with the other, then the deposition of the oath of the office and oath required to be taken before the special official with the other notary. Public subject matter made in like force with the effect of the supported evidence of the established proven the sworn declaration, certification, verification, statement in writing, with for the person which is subject by him, and then true for the under penalty of the perjury dated within the following form. Knowing and willfully with the misstatement of omission of the material of the fact with the concept of the federal criminal violation punishment Title 18 U.S. Code 1001, additional over their misstatement that punishable the perjury to Title 18 U.S. Code 1621. Timely filing required. Documents must receive the filing of the board office of the Washington D.C. with the time limit of the filing, the day of the receipt of the board, the day of the deposit of the mail, determined the timeliness of the filing. However, the document in the mail with the United States with the express mail with the postmark at least one day prior to the due date that will be accepted as timely. Other express mail received with the private express with mail carrier with at least one day prior to the due date will be accepted with the timely file with the time or term express mail means for the carrier delivery service other than next day delivery with the Washington D.C. If the e-filing option is chosen for those bleeding of the documents for the appropriate e-filing determine the rest of the information on the board website of the e-file bleeding document is timely filed with the e-filing process completed before 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time of the date. 1104-7. The computation extension. Computation A with the period of the time of the day of the act of the event with the default with the which for the designated period with the time begin with the run and not include with the last day of the period unless Saturday, Sunday with the legal holiday district calendar which event with the period until the end of the next day of the non Saturday and Sunday or holiday. The rules apply with the forward with the backward of permission with the time extension of the time period with the set with the provide with the law specified with the rules. The respect of the informal complaint with the secret of the damage of the extent of the board with the discretion upon with the request for the good for cause request for the extension must be served with all parties record with the same time by the same with the means service with the with the except with the service made with in person with the person service with the other parties with the feasible the service of the parties should be made first class express mail the request for the extension made with the file not less than 10 days before the day they originally with the request for the certified kit of the service that need to be filed with the board if granted properly party making the request should be promptly notified of all of the parties proceed with the extension of the self-certified of the board except with notification not required with the rule-making procedures, except for the time computation rule with the Title 49 CFR 1152 with the special abandonment rules. 1104-8. Objectional matter. The board may order the redundant, irrelevant, material of the impertinent with the scandalous matter of the stricken with the name of the document. 1104-9. Reserved. 1104-10. Rejection of the deficient document. The board may reject the document submitted with the filing of the board. Filing of the document does not comply with the rule of the board, either return the material of the unfiled with the tentatively accept material filing with the advice of the personal tendering of the deficiency and require the deficiency corrected. 1104 amendments. Leave to amend any of the document matter of the discretion. 1104 12 as the service bleeding with the paper. Generally, every document with the board shall include the certification, show the assignments, and the all of the parties proceed with the service of the parties should be by same member of the class service of the board, the chart of the any of the paper, the one copy of the service, each of the paper, each part of the service made with the board of the person of the service other parties not feasible, service should be made the first class of the document filed with the board for the e-filing process. For the copies of the e-filing document should be emailed with the other parties. The certificate acceptable to the other parties of the other paper copy of the document should be personally served on the other party to email if it not acceptable responsible party receiving the party personal services if it is not feasible service of the paper copy should be the first class of the express mail of the party of the representative of the practitioner of the attorney service of the practitioner deemed the representative of the party of the document is filed with the board through the e-filing process. A copy of the e-file document should be emailed the other party of the paper copy of the document should be personally served on the other party's side. Neither email nor personal service is feasible to serve the paper copy should be first class of the express mail. Our exemptions. Copy of the letter of the board relating to the oral argument under part 1116 of the subpoena of the 1113 2 of the need not to be served with the other party of the proceedings served with the commandments of the rule proceeding not required unless it's specifically directed by the board. And then 1104.13 reply with the motion time of the party may reply with the motion on the draft of the pleading within 20 days of the pleading with the file of the board unless the otherwise provided the number of the copy of the original reply with the motion accompanied with the same number of the copy of the file of the pleading with which the reply of the motion address reply to a reply is not permitted. 1104.14 protective order maintain confidential segregation confidential material the parties submit the materials which with the leave of the intel with the campus with the confidential and open not made part of the public document should be submitted with the material with a separate packet of the clearly marked on the outside of the confidential material is object with the request of the protective order. Confidential documents are filed with the eradicated version must also be filed. Or request of the protective order. Request of the material submitted to the board made confidential should be submitted with a separate pleading clearly headed with the motion of the protective order. The request of the protective order stand alone the copy of the simplified chamber of the motion of the protective order stand alone copy of the simplified chamber of the case of the evidence submission of the designated of the confidential material single braces the confidential material of the double brace and sensitive security information the triple brace and stand alone cost case the motion for protective order shall be filed with together the notice of the print Title 49 of the CFR 1111 1104.5 certification eligibility. Alright, individual applying with his or her name certificate and license the permit of the operative rail carrier with it must complete with the certification set forth in paragraph B with the section. The certification is required with the transfer finance for pursuing the Title 49 standard 11.323 and 11.324 and the individual certification authorized the individual apply with the authorization acquired to construct to extend the operator rail line certification. Part 1105 procedures implementation environmental laws.